Hello and welcome to the Analyst by Vajiram and Ravi, your daily dose of smart and structured current affairs for UPSC. It's May 20th, 2025 and today's edition unpacks two important developments shaping India's governance and environmental discourse. Firstly, we begin with the growing crisis of urban flooding in India, causes, consequences and the way forward. Next, we analyze the Supreme Court's stand on retrospective green clearances, a crucial judgment for environmental accountability. And we finally also bring you a set of simplified articles carefully chosen for UPSC Prelims 2025 covering schemes, digital reforms, rural governance and biodiversity. So let's begin. Hello everyone, welcome back again to another episode of The Analyst. We are going to start with the topic of urban flooding in country because we recently saw instances where Bengaluru saw a trial of destruction due to the heavy rainfall incidents. Recently, IMDb also in a report showcased the early onset of monsoon in the country, and that is why some stretches of the southern parts of our country are seeing excessive amount of rainfall, and mainly the massive consequences are borne by the urban areas, and this is why we will be focusing more on the flooding instances in the urban country, and that is where we have to look into the causes, consequences and the way forward in this matter, which is extremely important for the prelims examination, where we have the topic of Indian and world geography. Also pertaining to our GS1 topics of urbanizations, we also understand that in the syllabus we have to discuss about the various problems, and within this urban flooding is actually one of the main issue. Finally, from the perspective of GS3, we need to look into the various disasters and also how to manage those disasters. In the very beginning, I want to start with the reference of two mains PYQs in the past. Firstly, in 2020, there was a direct question on account for the huge flooding in the million cities in India. Million cities generally are referring to those cities who are having 1 million plus population, and also we have to understand that these cities are like Pune, Hyderabad, Delhi, Mumbai, Kolkata. So these are the cities which also see huge cases of flooding. So that is why the question is focused on this. In the next question in 2020 again, the question is talking about the interlinking of rivers and whether this can solve the potential issues of urban flooding in the country. And that is why we need to focus on this core topic, where according to various reports, as we can see here, the top 5 country by percentage of population at risks due to flooding incidents actually rank with reference to Netherlands, Bangladesh, Vietnam and so on. But when we talk about India and China, they have the largest amounts of people exposed to flooding, and this is the number at around 395 million people. And this is how we have to also account for the number of people exposed to flooding. So that is why when we talk about the main causes as to why India's million plus cities are flooding repeatedly, we are going to look at the various causes here directly, and in this slide I am going to talk about some of the issue specific causes pertaining to some of the important cities which can serve you as good case studies in your mains answers. So when I talk about on the surface of it, mainly we have two factors causing floods in million plus cities in the country. The direct factor prominently is due to the natural reason, while this natural reason is also anthropological in nature or man-made in nature. Why? Because this natural incidence of flooding is generally caused due to heavy amount of rainfall. We know that mainly the tropical regions, right, receive a lot of solar insolation, and due to global warming we are receiving more amount of solar insolation, and above that we are also trapping more heat inside. And we know that in the tropical regions we also have a lot of rain-bearing clouds, and the more formation of rain-bearing clouds actually come down as heavy rainfall on our cities. So this is one cause which is actually a natural cause due to global climate change. Second is purely man-made, purely urbanization in nature. For example, in various cities, particularly cities on river banks and so on, we build construction activities, we have various projects due to which we actually encroach upon the floodplains, and due to which the rivers do not actually maintain a proper flow, due to which the river waters enter the cities. And in the comments you can let me know some of the examples in the recent past where we have seen heavy flooding due to illegal floodplain encroachments in the country. Also, we are seeing over a period of time, we are trying to channelize the rivers according to our needs and conveniences. We are trying to build more canals and so on. That is also leading to loss of natural drains. Also, we are having continued development. While it is extremely important for the country to have better economic growth, to have better economic opportunities over a period of time, and that is why we need to have proper buildings and everything. But over a period of time, we are actually building more concretized roads, roofs and various pavements, which is not letting the water from the excessive rainfall go into the groundwater. So this concrete jungles we are actually trying to spread. This is actually one of the most important reasons. Next, when we come to the indirect factor, these are not directly impacting our rainfall patterns or various other reasons such as river course and everything, but this is actually clogging our drains. These reasons are actually clogging the various pathways for the water to escape during heavy rainfall. For example, when we talk about the drainage system, as we can see here, in India we do not have any city that can claim that it has proper clean drainage system. We have seen in our roads, on our say various pavements, millions of plastics are littered here and there. Also, we have on-road vehicle parking. We also have various improper waste management techniques in the country, due to which we have these indirect factors which clog our drains, which do not let the water escape. And this is why we have to now look at specific things. Firstly, we have seen that there is unplanned urbanization in the country, and mainly it is actually our encroachment of the various lakes, wetlands and the riverbeds, or on which we are trying to construct more buildings and everything. For example, when we talk about Hyderabad's Hussain Sagar spillover or Pune's Ambil Odha floodplain construction, we are trying to get rid of the various lakes and the natural water bodies we are having. Always remember that natural water bodies such as lakes, ponds, even rivers, they actually soak in the excess amount of flood waters and they try to channelize it according to the natural flow. And when we are having heavy construction, heavy urbanization, this is impacting the main water bodies. Next, when we talk about the drainage systems, in most of the million plus cities, right, I can tell all of the million plus cities, drainage system infrastructure is not up to the mark. It can be outdated, or the drainage systems, specifically the various big drains, they are totally clogged. Then also when we have the various open nalas, these are filled with debris, and due to the filling of debris, the drainage waters, they cannot flow. And that is why we also do not have sometimes proper maintenance of this drainage system by the municipal authorities. And also lastly, we have to understand one of the most important factors here is a lack of separation between sewage and the storm water, which is actually piling up our drains, clogging the drains and piling the water in the cities itself. Next, over a period of time, we are seeing extreme rainfall events, which are climate change induced. For example, Pune received 100 plus millimeters of rainfall in a matter of few hours in 2024, if you all can remember that sad incident. Next, we also have paved surfaces and these concretized jungles which I referred to earlier. This do not let the waters pass through to the groundwater tables, and this is actually reducing the groundwater table in general too. And in cities such as Chennai, Hyderabad, we are also seeing acute water crisis and drinking water crisis there. And finally, we also have to come to the main issue of loss of natural buffers. Trees, various plants and various native local species of plants, they actually act as sponges. We know that plants absorb water. The lack of the same in urban areas is causing this particular issue even much more in magnitude. And finally, when we talk about the smart cities which are in construction across the country, these infrastructural plans regarding smart city still have not incorporated properly the issues of flooding and urban flooding and how we have to have a proper resilient city. And at the end of the day, when we talk about the weather forecasting, when we talk about the gaps in data collection, that is also there. So all of these are leading to devastating impacts on the scene of urban flooding. When we talk about the economic losses, this has run into the billions of dollars of losses. When we talk about Mumbai and Chennai floods, with reference to public health crisis, it has caused various outbreaks of various viral bacterial diseases such as leptospirosis and also diarrhea and malaria surge, particularly in prominent cities across the country, right? Also, when we talk about the transportation system that is collapsing altogether because of the inundation of water, right? As we can see the case of Bengaluru floods, which actually led to the loss of how much? Around 225 crore per day. That is actually a very huge amount. Next, also when we talk about social inequality, the slum dwellers are hit the worst. Also, when we talk about the recent breach of Yamuna water in Delhi, we also see how the water levels rose due to insufficient infrastructural management in the Yamuna floodplains. And that is why mainly we have seen how there are various juggies and the slum communities, between the river plains. They are the most affected. The slum dwellers are the most affected. This was also seen in Mumbai, where 41% of Mumbai, we have to understand and acknowledge the fact they live in slums. So any flood incidents can not only lead to the destruction of their professions and everything, they lead to destruction of their houses. And also when we talk about the pain beyond physical pain, we also have to appreciate the role of mental health, because when we talk about the post-traumatic stress disorder, it has actually, according to various studies, rise up to around 40% in the flood prone areas in the urban areas. And ultimately at the end of the day, these flooding incidents which inundate the entire cities, they also cause huge losses to the heritage and the architectural structures, as was seen in 2019 in Hampi. So this is where you have to appreciate this kind of impacts. So that is why we have to now look at what are the various steps which have been taken by the Indian government and also some of the state governments too. Firstly, when we talk about the central government's initiative, we have the National Urban Flooding Program. So this program is actually talking about mapping the cities, having early warning systems in the cities, having proper coordination between the center, between the state, the district, and at the urban local body level. Next, we are also having the most important initiative of smart cities, where the government aspires to develop cities which are resilient not only economically, not only on an urbanization scale, but also on a sustainable scale, that is keeping the various aspects of environment in mind. But at the end of the day, despite these features, we are still seeing more instances of flooding in some of the smart cities in the country. For example, take the case of Chennai. It has also seen the heavy instances of flooding over a period of time. And also, be it a smart city or not, right? So that is where we have to understand the cause of infrastructure in such cities, where we need more amount of IoT based system, real-time flood monitoring system, GIS based mapping of drainage systems. But still, as a part of this, we are seeing some of the lagging behind in this particular aspect. Next, also when we talk about the Atal Mission for Rejuvenation and Urban Transformation, or the AMRUT scheme, which is very popular in recent times, it focuses on stormwater drainage infrastructure, or the huge amount of canals and the drains and complicated structure of drainage system, which is transferring the water in and out of the city. And this will generally be possible by upgrading of the older drains and construction of the newer sustainable drainage systems. Next, we also have the NDMA Urban Flooding Guidelines of 2010, which talk about various amounts of preparedness, early warning system, and also skilling of the people in this particular matter. And finally, at the end of the day, we also have a very interesting initiative such as the river linking projects across the country. We also have recently seen the recent instance of Ken Betwa, interlinking of river. So this is where, in this region, the entire community is aspiring that the urban flooding incidents, also the general flooding incidents, will be decreasing. Next, when we talk about the city initiatives, we have Mumbai, who has the Brim Steward project, which is also talking about the mapping and the various issues of preparedness in urban flooding. Next, we also have Chennai, who have devised the sea flows or Chennai flood warning system. We also have Kolkata, who has this Kolkata Environmental Improvement Project, where mainly we have to use the various wetlands and the ponds and the lakes in the city of Kolkata, where we also have the East Kolkata wetlands. Next, we also have Bengaluru, who is trying to have the same aspiration with lake rejuvenation and green infrastructure. Always understand that wetlands are extremely important when we talk about the management of flooding in the cities, because these act as sponges, they absorb water. And also Ahmedabad, when we talk about the Sabarmati Riverfront Development Project. So these are all initiatives you can keep in mind, you can use in your answers. And at the end, you need to know some suggestions too, which must be lasting in nature. This cannot be band-aid kind of suggestions. So I have divided the suggestions into three phases: the short term, medium term and the long term. The short term measures, which typically range from 1 to 2 years, which is very easy for the government to scale up. Firstly, we have to focus on desilting and cleaning the drains. Remember that the drains are actually the capillary systems of the cities, and that is why we have to understand that the drains must be running without any interruptions. And specifically Hyderabad city has done a very good job here by strategic Nala development program, which has cleared around 300 worth kilometers of drains. And that is why they are also having this smart early warning system also integrated with the drainage system. With this particular aspect, we also need to invest in IoT sensors or Internet of Things sensors, like Singapore has done with its smart water grid, to have proper real-time data. Remember that we discussed one of the issues was data and the predictions and everything. So that is why we need to fit the IoT systems which can give us this kind of instruction. Next, we also need to emulate Rotterdam's water squares, where in prominent city towns and in areas of Rotterdam, we have prominent amount of rainwater harvesting schemes. So this is also something that we can adopt. Next, when we talk about the medium term measures, we need to talk about restoring the water bodies. And here Kolkata's east wetlands actually right now is treating around 750 million liters per day, and that is also preventing floods there. And also in the recent times, as you can see, the flooding incidence in Kolkata has actually marginally reduced. Also, this is why Kolkata is actually following a technique known as sponge city technique. This is actually followed by China, and China has actually many cities based on these concepts known as permeable roads, rain gardens. That means that it is having a 3-tier system: first, second and third. It depends on the severity of your flooding incidents. I mean, 1 is the least severe, 2 is a little more, and 3 is the highest severe incident of urban flooding. So in this respect, China has devised the cities in such a way that in light instances of flooding, we can have green buildings, we can have community systems close together, which can actually create green spaces, afforestation, by absorbing the excess amount of rainfall. Next, when the moderate rainfall is actually increasing, we can actually transition to the second phase, where we need to have underground tanks. We have to have rain gardens where it will be filled with many water bodies, many plants. So this can also absorb the excess amount of water. And also in terms of excessive rainfall, we need to have macro system and properly urban approach system, where we need to have wetland parks, and when we need to have proper amount of wetlands and the connections between them. So in this matter, this urban flooding, or say the excess amount of waters, these kind of things will be absorbed very easily. And this has also been seen in China, where 70 to 90% retention of the rainwater was seen. And that is why this makes us very important to adopt the flood resilience architecture. At the end of the day, we also have New Orleans float houses, which are actually floating houses kind of, and these are known as amphibious buildings. So these reflect the importance of conservation. And at the end of the day, when we talk about long-term measures, we need to be very ambitious. Look at this overhaul of the drainage systems in these various parts of the country. For example, we need to ban construction on floodplains by actually ensuring 30 meters to 50 meters of buffer zones, where we cannot have any kind of construction activities within these particular areas. Next, also when we need to talk about green urban building planning, we need to learn from Milan's vertical forest, as you can see here. If I can zoom into the picture, as you can see here, these are proper plants and in some cases even trees on urban areas. So we can understand that excessive amount of rainfall will be absorbed into this kind of buildings too. And if we have hundreds and even thousands of buildings like this, so we can actually try to absorb the excessive amount of water. And also at the end of the day, we need proper amount of funding, such as the $2 billion worth of Tokyo's underground drainage system, where they are using sensitive pressure controlled pumps, where they are also using various tunnels and network of tunnels to channelize the various flood waters to the nearby rivers. So in this particular aspect, we have come to discuss the various issues, impacts and the way forward. So it is up to you right now to practice this question with good intentions. Also in this kind of say questions and answers, you need to have some proper value addition such as this. You can see here I've summarized it for you. You can use this in your answers. Now I will be moving on to the next one. Guys, recently the Supreme Court actually delivered a very important judgment, which is regarding the center's orders on retrospective environmental clearances. It's a very important topic for an environment from preliminary perspective. Also, the term environment impact assessment is directly mentioned in the GS3 syllabus, which typically means that, for example, if you want to construct a hotel, right, nearby a forest, you know that hotel construction will be entailing construction materials such as cement and everything, and you also maybe have to clear some land, then you have to displace some animals, and you have to then construct the hotel, and maybe you are using it for tourism purposes. But you have to understand, if you are building some hotels or any projects near some ecologically sensitive areas such as forests, wetlands and various other environmental features, you need to do a thorough research on actually what is the long-term impact of your project on the environment. Because right now we are not only focused on economic growth, we are also focused on economic growth and development and sustainability. So that is where when we talk about sustainability, we have to take environment impact assessment together, and that is actually a process by which the government is actually doing all these environmental clearances. For example, firstly the government has told okay that there needs to be a notification or order on the same, and that is the environment impact assessment notification 2006, which is actually talking about the categorization of the various projects in the country and what are the various stages by which we can do environmental clearances. We can actually pass the projects that are green, and we have to deny the projects which are not green in nature, and also if at all that is passed, we have to monitor them over a period of time. So based on that, we have some categories, right? EIA project have some categories. Firstly, we have category A, which are actually very important projects which needs the attention of the central government via the MOAFCC or the Ministry of Environment. So these high impact projects must have full EIA clearance. That means these projects must definitely have clearance by the central government. There are some other categories such as the category B projects, where these are divided into category B1, which are actually of moderate impact, or these projects are having moderate impact on the environment, and that is why they needed state clearances. And in India, most of the projects are actually falling under B category, because we have to understand these are local level projects. That is why the state governments comes into the picture most often. And at the end, we have the category B2 projects, where these are low impacted, where you need not conduct any EIA, where the state clearance is actually more than enough. Now, what is the entire process, or these clearances are involving various processes. Now, these processes are actually starting with screening. Screening means if I am constructing a hotel nearby a forest, firstly, the government authorities at the state and the central level, they must be seeing if at all we need a EIA project or say EIA clearance or not, or a study or not, right? And for example, in this matter, mostly we see that in category B projects, we generally have the State Expert Appraisal Committee, where it will be looking into if at all EIA project is needed or not. Then the next step will be scoping. In the scoping, the various issues will be listed for study. So here various experts will be studying your project if at all that is needed. So here the Minister of Environment and also the various committees will be participating. Also then it will be going to the public hearing, and here public participation is very important, because all the peoples, for example in that forest example, living beside the forest and within the forest, they also needed to be consulted, because it is about their homes we are talking about. Any impact will be impacting them also. Next, it comes the appraisal, where the scrutiny of all the reports will be undertaken, and also at the end of the day a decision will be made whether to grant or deny the projects. It can be made, for example, in the case of category A projects by the Minister of Environment, or in cases of category B by the state committee. And at the end of the day, if at all the project is passed, the process does not end here. It will still be monitored, and whether the project owners or the various business individuals, they're complying with the rules and regulations or not, it will be finally surveilled by the various UT Pollution Control Board, State Pollution Control Board, or even the regional authorities entrusted with this duty. So this is exactly what I'm talking about, the various basics of this thing. Now, coming to the main topic here, because we have to understand that India is a developing country, and We need more projects, we need more infrastructure, we need more construction, because as a developing country, there is huge amount of demand in the country, and that is why various private individuals, they need to have expanding business. And these businesses can be in the cases of tourism, in the cases of factories operating near ecologically sensitive areas such as in the entire stretch of Western Ghats, or such as in the cases of Himalayan foothills. We need economic progress, we need employment opportunities, and that is why there are many projects, right, which do not in the beginning take environmental clearances, and after starting the project, then they apply for EIA clearances. And this is where, according to various experts, it is alleged that these projects are highly illegal in nature, because you cannot undertake any kind of project without taking EIA if it is at all concerning the environment. And also, according to various experts, in 2017 and 2021, the central government unilaterally passed orders and not legislative laws or statutes. Legislatures and all the laws and statutes are actually passed by the parliament or the state legislative assembly, which are actually having the democratic force to pass or legislate on this kind of issues. But here this kind of actions were taken unilaterally by the central government. And what are these actions? For example, the 2017 notification is focused on retrospective environmental clearances. Now, what is retrospective? I just talked about this project which has started without taking environmental clearances. Now, the central government told that, okay, we can give one-time amnesty, or we can actually give temporary relaxation for these projects to start without clearances. What they have to do, they can allow to be operated for around 6 months, within which they have to apply for the environmental clearance. If it is passed, they can continue to do their business, otherwise they have to close down. And the center justified this on the grounds of bringing the violators under regulation, right, so that they can have this, the government can have the data, if at all, how many violators are there functioning without EIA. And also the center can actually ask for compensation if they are not following the EIA norms. Now that was good. The center told that, okay, this was for one time thing. Now in 2021, the central government laid out the standard operating procedures or a detailed set of guidelines and rules for streamlining the clearance of such violation cases. So according to experts, the 2021 notification was seen as legitimizing the earlier 2017 notification. Well, earlier 2017 was actually seen as a one-time thing. Now it is actually turning into streamlining such cases, and this actually enabled the processing of such projects through various frameworks. And this is exactly why the Supreme Court has issues with this environmental clearance, which are retrospective in nature. So the Supreme Court listed out its judgment. Firstly, Supreme Court totally banned this kind of retrospective environmental permits. This has to be banned. Now, firstly, Supreme Court told that, okay, it is violating Article 21, that is our right to live, because we have to understand that the right to clean and healthy environment is actually a part of our fundamental right, Article number 21. And also, by allowing such projects to continue, it is actually, the main people at the grassroots level, they will be suffering at the end of the day, because their lives and health will be endangered. And also the court told that this kind of development, while it is important for the nation, for its economic activities, they cannot happen at the cost of environment. Next, the Supreme Court also told that it is violating Article 14. Why? Because imagine that there are some business organizations which are ethical, who actually obey the government's rules and regulations, who take the EIA, follow all the 6 stages, and then they try to operate their businesses usually. But look at those other illegal projects and the violators who are intentionally not following the rules and regulations. So this is actually creating unequal space. So this is actually not about equal treatment of various individuals and no deterrence for violence. So this is actually a case of unfair discrimination. So that is why Supreme Court overturned these cases too. Also, if you can see, look at this particular data, these instances are increasing over a period of time. That is violating environmental jurisprudence, as also Supreme Court referred in this judgment to prior to cases such as the Common Cause 2017 case, and also the Alembic Pharmaceuticals versus Rohit Prajapati case of 2020, where Supreme Court actually categorically held in the previous cases that this ex post facto clearance or this retrospective clearances are alien to Indian environmental law, that we do not have such jurisprudence here. Maybe that can take place in other countries, but in India we need to have proper environmental clearances because we have a good amount of biodiversity, and if at all the ecological balance is destroyed, that can be a massive amount of destruction. And at the end, the Supreme Court actually talked about the most important thing, that the 2017 orders were actually a one-time thing. But that one-time thing was stretched to 2021 order, and whether this particular 2021 order gave us more amount of rules and regulations about such violations. So that is why the center earlier actually argued before the Madras High Court that 2017 notification was one time, but the Supreme Court found that 2021 notification continued this kind of practices, and that is why this is not constitutionally permissible. So that is why also in the previous cases we have seen Supreme Court set aside NJT's order on Auroville Township, and there is actually a very important township, but still Supreme Court denied it. And that is why we have to now understand and conclude this discussion by understand the wider implications of this case. Firstly, what it actually means for the entire country, we have to first understand that apart from rule of law, Supreme Court actually emphasized upon the need for environmental rule of law. That we cannot only follow the rule of law, we have to also keep the environment in consideration. Next, we also have to protect against the arbitrary action of the state. Because state in 2017 and 2021, it passed some orders, and based on that, they are trying to legitimize the cause. So that must not be the thing. Next, according to various NGOs, civil society and the various social activists, this was actually a very big deal. So this is coming as a great relief for them and a moment of justice for them. Next, this is also sending a signal to the markets. I mean to the economic markets, to the construction markets, to the real estate markets, to the tourism sector, that from now on you need to take proper care of the environment clearances. You need to also talk about monitoring the compliances and about following the environmental rule of law. And at the end of the day, we have to appreciate that 2017 and 21 orders were executive decisions. These were not the parliamentary laws which have been passed by the parliament or say the legislative assembly of the state governments. So what we have to understand that we need more parliamentary or state legislative assembly laws in that matter, and based on the discussions there, we can actually have a constructed amount of laws and legal framework and not just unilateral executive orders like this. So that is why this brings me to this question, practice question. You practice this, all of you, and in this kind of questions you can also talk about a very important term known as strategic environment assessment of strategic initiatives, right? And this is generally meaning that this kind of projects are having more political considerations in mind as opposed to the EIE. So maybe a hint of such references can be given in these answers or recording to this particular topic. So now we'll be moving on to the simplified articles. This is a very important article where there is a recent report regarding the functioning of our MGNREGS scheme, which is important for the economic part, for the social development part of our prelims examination, and also for our GS2, where we need to understand and look at the various government policies and schemes in the news, and also what are the various issues out of the schemes. Now this article is talking about the comprehensive amount of issues that we are facing, but for your prelims and also for all those people who are new to the discussion, I'm just giving a very quick and brief overview about what exactly is Mahatma Gandhi National Rural Employment Guarantee Act 2005 is all about. Firstly, we have to understand this is actually an employment scheme for the rural peoples of our country. Now, any Indian citizen above 18 years of age from a rural household willing to do unskilled manual work is eligible for the MGNREGA scheme. And this work can be regarding road construction, repairment of old buildings in the rural areas, or various other construction activities. So this particular work must be unskilled and manual, just remember this. Also, this is a guaranteed work, that means minimum 100 days per year will be guaranteed to that particular person, and this is actually per household basis. right? And also a time-bound employment opportunity is given. That means work must be provided by the government or the state government within 15 days of the application, failing which even the state government have to give an unemployment allowance. So this is actually a very progressive kind of an employment scheme. Also, the employment allowance, for example, in this case must be 1/4 of the wage for the first 30 days, half of the wage thereafter if at all employment is not provided. Also, the work and the nature of the workplace must be nearby the applicant's home itself, that is within 5 kilometers. Beyond that, government also must be providing travel allowance. Also, when we talk about the audit or how the scheme is functioning, we have a social audit function where it is mandated under section 17 for the community monitoring and transparency. Also, when we talk about how this entire planning is decentralized, here the Gram Sabhas and the Panchayat actually are involved in planning the projects, selecting the projects and giving the final permits here. Next, when we talk about the working conditions according to the government and the state governments must be on a safe and prescribed level, where there must be facilities such as medical aid and compensation for any injury at workplace. Next, when we talk about the payments must be timely, wages must be paid within 15 days. If at all there is a delay, that particular thing will be liable for compensation. Next, when we talk about the recent times, the government scheme of MGNREGA from 2005 has evolved over a period of time. Right now, we are actually having a proper app to monitor the uptake of the various peoples on this particular scheme. Also, when we talk about geotagging, when we talk about online MIS system, and also the direct benefit transfer or paying in cash directly to the various bank balances, bank accounts of the people, that is also possible right now due to various technological innovations. Now, when I talk about the recent report, this is a report which is actually showing a growing mismatch between the coverage or the registrations for the jobs and the delivery, or say the employment days. Now, this report is actually undertaken by a consortium of academics and activists, where they have defined the person days according to the total number of work days by a person registered under the scheme in a financial year. So this is where we are seeing the mismatch. The mismatch is that according to the 2023-24, 2024-25 financial year, right? Just compare these 2 years. When we talk about the registrations between these 2 years had increased by 8.6%. But when we talk about the actual employment on ground, that has decreased by 4.3%. And it is mainly the states such as Odisha, Tamil Nadu and Rajasthan who saw the biggest declines in this employment opportunities. Where the states of Maharashtra, Himachal Pradesh and Bihar, they saw overall good growth of employment opportunities. So there can be various factors. Firstly, there can be more demand of such unskilled work in such states and less demand here, and also sometimes there can be some political considerations too in this particular matter according to various experts here. So that is why this 100-day work guarantee has actually fallen below the target, where only 7% of the households have been delivered 100-day work and the rest have been delayed the particular employment opportunities. So this is why we have to understand what are the root causes of such declining work days. Firstly, we have chronic underfunding, as always, as we can understand also from the recent budget allocations. The allocations for MGNREGA is on a decline, right? So the recommended budget and the actual allocations are actually very abysmal. And also, when we talk about the impact, the states are running out of funds, and this is actually leading to work stoppages, and it is actually the state governments who are responsible for this kind of activity. Next, when we talk about the work, even if they are getting the work, they are getting delayed payments, and the delays are sometimes 30, even 60 days. And also when we talk about the compensation, that is also not coming on time. This is demotivating the workers. Some of the workers are not even going to the work, or say even to register for the work, and they get absorbed in the informal sector of our country. And at the end of the day, we also have job card deletions, which are now stabilizing after the recent standard operating procedures which have been taken. Some rules and guidelines have been mentioned, but also the job card deletions were seen as a scope of corruption. So this is why we need to undertake some of the recommendations according to this report. Firstly, we need to increase the budget aligned with around 2.5 to 3 lakh crore to actually meet 100-day targets. If at all we do not have the money, how we can actually give the employment to the people? Next, we also need timely wage payments. For this, we need to leverage more direct benefit transfer to directly the bank accounts of the people. We need better monitoring, and actually with reference to the various job card deletions, the data discrepancies, we need to penalize the various officers of the various state governments, and also we need to decentralize planning, let the gram panchayats handle almost all the operations here, and have a proper liaison between the district and the state, and also the central level with the gram panchayats. And also we need a transparency portal for this particular aspect. We need to know about the total number of days, the funds, the compensation, the delays, the various travel allowances and the various other allowances on a unified platform, so that the common people can also try to observe if at all the scheme is being implemented in true spirit or not. Now on to a PYQ from 2011. You solve this and let me know in the comments. Now we're moving on to the next topic. Recently, the Home Minister has launched E0 FIR initiative, which is very important for prelims in the context of Indian polity and governance, and also for GS2, where we need to look at various models of evolving e-governance initiatives. So that is where it brings me to this topic of E0 FIR. We know that in our country there are rising instances of cyber crimes, cyber frauds, mainly affecting the younger population and more impacting the elderly population. That is why the government have had taken so many initiatives, and one of the initiatives is actually this one, which is talking about the integration of the FIR system on a digital space. And this is actually launched by the Indian Cyber Crime Coordination Center under the Ministry of Home Affairs, and also this is trying to automate the conversion of cyber fraud complaints into first information reports, or FIR. Now when we talk about FIR, there are some recent new terms regarding it. For example, the e-FIR. For example, see, if you are filing an electronic FIR, the data entry in the general diary will be undertaken, but here you have to give a digital signature within 72 hours. When we talk about the zero FIR is actually, talking about registering an FIR without jurisdictional constraints. Now this is actually a recipe for Bollywood movies, right? As you can see here, right, in various Bollywood movies, the police station sometimes denies taking FIR from individuals outside their jurisdiction. So this is the main policy of zero FIR, to lead to more lesser cases of such denials of registering FIR by the common citizen. So here when we talk about this E0 FIR, this is mainly talking about tackling the cyber crimes. So the pilot project was launched in Delhi in 2025, and right now we are actually talking about spreading this to the entire country. Now here you can only file zero EFIR if you are having financial frauds up to the tune of 10 lakh or more. So how it works, for example, if the victim or you as a victim is facing a financial fraud of more than 10 lakh rupees, so you can actually call the 1930 helpline or the NCRB National Crime Reporting Portal. So if the amount is more than 10 lakh, the system will be auto generating a zero FIR at Delhi's e-crime police station. So this FIR is electronically transferred then to your jurisdictional police station, right? That means where you are resident in. And also this complainant, you have to visit the police station within 3 days to convert that by giving signatures into a regular FIR, and then the police will be initiating probes. So this is a very seamless method and a very less time consuming method when we talk about reporting of cyber crimes. Now, we have to talk about why at all this feature has been introduced. Firstly, this is a very automatic feature. It is very friendly for the various people who are not aware of the various initiatives by the government to reduce cyber crime, because as you can see here, mainly we have the states of Uttar Pradesh, Rajasthan, Karnataka who are facing most of the cyber criminal activities. Also, this is a jurisdiction free filing. That means you can file this anywhere and later that can be transferred to your jurisdictional police station. This can also give you real-time integration, such as it is linking the National Crime Reporting Portal, it is linking the Delhi Police EFIR, and also the Central Criminal Network, where it is having the entire database of all the criminals and all the various statutes on a single platform. Next, also it is having a strict 3-day verification period where you need to verify it, and that is actually a very strict way. And at the end of the day, it is also supporting the various new criminal laws. It is actually supporting the BNSS 2023 in this particular direction. So now we'll be moving on to the next one. Guys, in this editorial, we have a very important initiative known as the PAI. So we are going to study this in depth because this stands for Panchayat Advancement Index. And this will be giving us a micro picture of the rural development at the grassroots level. Now just understand one thing, that on the grassroots level we undertake most of the important decisions, such as taking local decisions, talking about the waters, talking about the water supply, electricity supply, and the various local issues. So why not having an index to rank the various panchayats all across the country and try to monitor them and try to rank them according to their performance. This will be serving two purposes. Firstly, it will be boosting competition between the panchayats to actually give better service delivery to the citizens. Secondly, it will be also serving as an information tool for us so that we can actually look at where our panchayat is listed. So for this matter, we have around 2.16 lakh Gram Panchayats linked on this particular index, where it was launched in April 2025 by the Ministry of Panchayati Raj. It is India's first granular Panchayat level data dashboard. Granular database means that we are talking about around 435 indicators. That means we are talking about water, electricity, and various other 435 components, right? Where around 331 are mandatory items and around 104 items are optional in nature, where this particular local indicators are various data points under the localization of sustainable development goals. It can actually serve various rural data points under the Ministry of Statistics and Program Implementation data sets, where we have to understand that this particular data points, right, will be evaluated based on health, education, and various other levels, and you can actually access it via public portal at www.pai.gov.in. So for example, if you are a sarpanch in Bihar and you now want to check that how your panchayat is scoring on healthy village indicators, so you can easily do that. You can also compare your performance with the neighboring gram panchayats and also identify the gaps, right, to prioritize various solutions. So this is actually how we can actually transform local realities into global goals of sustainable development goals. So because we have to understand why at all we need such an index, because we have a data deficit at the local level. This has been always the issue with the panchayat and the decentralization of power at the local levels, where we have to integrate this in our main answers, these kind of initiatives and so on, because despite India's digital push and the various Digital India missions, we still do not have proper information at the local level. For example, we are not yet conducting the census, which are due for more than 10 years. Next, we also have complex data sets on portals like data.gov.in, where the panchayats and the various sarpanch, they cannot use it according to their own convenience. And also, we have a top-to-down database. That means the bureaucrats are collecting the data, they are trying to link the data with various technical expertise. At the end of the day, sarpanch or the frontline workers are not able to use that. So that is why PAI is a game changer, because it is actually talking about various understandable metrics such as health, education, water, electricity, and so on. So it is talking about micro-targeting all those important indicators and actually talking about how we can have specific planning for MLAs and MPs on this particular metrics, so that we can have an outcome-based planning. Outcome-based planning means we have to talk about what is the performance of that particular initiative and how we can actually have various fulfillment of the gaps and have more solutions. Also, this is about multi-sectoral coordination between frontline workers, officials of panchayats, and also various other offices. When we talk about the funding allocation, it can use the funding by the CSR, right, by the various private companies, by the MP lads or the MLA lads. In the comment section, you let me know what is the main difference between the MP lads and MLA lads. Also, when we talk about academic involvement under Unnat Bharat Abhiyan, right, various institutes are also encouraged to participate in this index, and also technology, for example, has been used, for example, with reference to data analytics and so on. And also at the end of the day, an urban parallel, for example, urban local bodies index also has been conceptualized. So this is why this is an entire game changer. So that is why we need to find how to utilize this properly. Firstly, we need to address the challenge of low digital literacy by training the panchayats, right, under the various aspects, Common Service Center, the Unnat Bharat Abhiyan, and also we need SDG aligned funding. Next, we need to address the data gaps by actually trying to give funds to the states, for example, such as UP, to validate 100% of the Gram Panchayat data, because according to the editorial, UP yet did not link the Gram Panchayats on a 100% level. So that is why we need more amount of block level data analysts. And also, when we talk about the portal which is underused as of now, we need to promote this portal via our prime ministers or chief ministers newsletters, maybe via Man Ki Baat and various other initiatives. Also, the corporate and the NGOs must be coming into partnerships. And at the end of the day, we need to also transform from a rural to an urban perspective or an urban index, correct? For example, municipal achievement index. So this is why we can actually try to have this kind of data visualization at the local level and make India march forward in the path of development. So we can actually use this kind of words for your answers, for your conclusions related to such topics. Now we'll be moving on to the next topic. Guys, Uber has entered the ONDC, the Open Network for Digital Commerce. Now, you have to understand this via a simple example. When we go to Amazon, Flipkart, don't we see that there are various items which are listed and also some of the sellers which are mentioned? Now, these are not Flipkart or Amazon which are themselves selling. These are normal sellers, but these sellers are actually very huge sellers who pay huge commissions to Flipkart and Amazon to be just present on their platform and sell the various goods and services. So this is actually traditional e-commerce model on high fees and high commissions. At the end of the day, the sellers have to pay high commissions. The customers have to finally compensate the high commissions by paying higher prices. So that is actually a very exploitative model. But right now we are transforming towards a more open model, which was launched in 2021 by the DPIIT under the Ministry of Commerce. Right now, this is not government controlled or regulated on a 100% level. Here the government is present to just actually give the benefits to everyone. And here this model is similar to the UPI. That means it is a centralized platform where everyone is free to participate, and the goal is to break the dominance of the big tech companies in e-commerce. So that is why this is a decentralized network. As you can see here, there can be any number of sellers. That can be a very big seller, that can be even a Kirana store owner. And all of these will be on various platforms. For example, this can be the Paytm platform, this can be the Dunzo platform, this can be the latest Uber platform. So these platforms can sell their grocery items, the food items, the pharmacy items, electronic items, whatever they want to sell can be listed on these platforms. So as we consumers, we will be downloading the apps and we will be opening the ONDC and we will be getting the services. So that means that this is a decentralized network where everyone is present. Even in the middle, the payment operators and the payment gateway, they are also present. At a very low cost transaction without any middleman, this is operating. And also any seller can enlist here. And also this is an open protocol as opposed to the closed ecosystem with reference to Amazon or Flipkart. So this is where we have to now understand what are the benefits of ONDC. So for the sellers, we do not have high commissions. They can sell directly to the consumers. They can have higher reach. For example, say Paytm, Zomato and various other applications have more customers. So these sellers can have more customers as a database. Also, the onboarding is very easy. Now for buyers, we have more choices, right? We have more local stores and also big brands at one place, where the big brands and the local stores are competing at the local level at a lower price. And also this is interoperable. You can operate it from any ONDC app, and there is no such thing that if you are registered in Flipkart, you have to sell in Flipkart or you have to buy in Flipkart itself. So it is completely free to do business. And that is why this will be very good for the Indian economy. A big boost for MSMEs, more Kirana stores and more small shops can open their accounts here. Also, the foreign dominance via this Walmart and Amazon backed institutions will be reducing, and job creation via delivery drivers, logistics and everything. As you can see here, Uber is right now talking about a QR based metro ticket system on its app. Now, this is important to understand how employment will be created. Now, this company is also planning to launch its business to business or B2B logistics vertical. This can be, transportation business or various, operations on the, procurement and purchasing of office materials and so on. So this can actually talk about facilitating this particular matter. So it can be leading to more jobs, more creation of employment opportunities. So as of now, they will be starting with food deliveries. Gradually they will be going to e-commerce, grocery, pharmacy and various other items too. So this was all for this. Now we'll be moving on to the next and final topic. In a very good news, we have 2 more snow leopards born at Darjeeling Zoo, and here right now their number has risen to 13. So this is a very significant news, and firstly we need to understand the various basic details of the snow leopard for our examination. And when we talk about the snow leopards, these are very important creatures at the top of Himalayas, and they are very elusive creatures. It is actually very recently where we have the very first footage of the snow leopards. If you can go to YouTube, you can just look at them, how interesting they are. To just increase your interest in them, let me tell you that they have very huge nostrils to have more air and getting warm the air within their nose, and then only they can actually enter their sensitive lungs, because they actually reside in various high altitude of Himalayan mountains, and they actually hunt their prey in such high altitudes, due to which they have this kind of paws which are extremely broad, so that they actually do not sink in the snow directly, and also how they can grab the rocks of the mountains very efficiently. Also noteworthy fact is that the front limbs are actually short. The back limbs of the snow leopard are actually more broad, because it can give better push when they're running for their prey. And at the end of the day, they have long thick tail to guide them when they are jumping from high altitudes to low altitude in search of some prey. When we talk about the status, they are having vulnerable status, and also when we talk about their habitats, they typically live within the high mountains, as you can see in this particular map. So there are around 12 countries as of now. For example, Mongolia, Kyrgyzstan, Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan, Tajikistan, Afghanistan, Russia, China, Bhutan, Nepal, Pakistan. But it is India where we have most of the snow leopards among this kind of countries. So that is why we have important initiatives such as the Secure Himalayan Project, which is an umbrella project to secure the Himalayan regions and also to conserve snow leopard and their habitat. Also, we have Project Snow Leopard, which is an integrated management of landscapes, and also the Global Snow Leopard and Ecosystem Protection Program. So this is the various initiatives, but here the main news is that this Darjeeling Zoo, or the Padmaja Naidu Himalayan Zoological Park, is actually having one of the most important and the largest pool of snow leopards in the country, and it is having the largest captive population of species in the entire world. So this is actually under the conservation breeding program for snow leopards, which was started in 1985, and right now this is becoming very successful because we are having more cubs as of now. So mainly they are facing issues of lack of protection of the statutes, because they are very difficult to spot. Secondly, the livestock grazing is actually a very important issue for the local sheep herders and everyone, because the snow leopards can easily kill them, and that is why the cattle herders, they itself kill the snow leopards. Next, also we have huge amount of human encroachment in the Himalayas in the name of tourism, and at the end of the day we have limited scientific data regarding them. So that is why it brings me to this 2019 question indirectly related to the snow leopards. You solved this, you mentioned this in the comments, and at the end of the day I thank you for being an extremely patient audience, and please do attempt the quiz which is following up. Till we meet again, all the best and best of luck. Thank you.